The Discovery. The relentless sun baked the metal scrapyard, turning it into a shimmering sea of discarded dreams. Jake Sullivan shielded his eyes with a weathered hand, surveying the chaos of twisted metal and abandoned machinery. Every step kicked up clouds of red dust that clung to his boots and stained his once pristine flight jacket. This wasteland of forgotten technology in the outer reaches of the Kepler system was where careers came to die, and now apparently where he belonged. Never thought I'd end up here, Jake muttered, running fingers through his salt and pepper hair. The disgrace of the Titan 7 incident still haunted him, the memory of that catastrophic test flight failure branded into his mind. Once celebrated as humanity's most intuitive test pilot, he was now reduced to scrounging through scraps, hoping to find something, anything, that might redeem him. The broker, a gangly alien named Vrex with 4 arms and compound eyes, had promised him something special. Not just any ship, Vrex had chattered in his peculiar accent. A real treasure if you know what to look at, ancient, powerful, perfect for someone with your situation. Jake had grunted his acknowledgement, having learned long ago that alien brokers always oversold their wares. But desperation was a powerful motivator, and he needed a ship, any ship, to get back in the game. As he navigated the labyrinth of wreckage, something caught his eye. Partially buried in a sand dune, a sleek form protruded, all smooth curves and dark metallic surfaces that seemed to absorb rather than reflect light. Unlike the rusted hulks around it, this vessel appeared almost pristine, save for the alien glyphs etched into its hull that glowed faintly even in the harsh daylight. "What are you?" Jake whispered, approaching with cautious reverence. The design was unlike anything he'd seen, not human, not from any known alien species. As his fingers traced the hull, an electric tingle shot up his arm, making him stumble backward. The ship seemed to vibrate, a subtle hum that resonated in his bones. Jake stared at it, heart racing. Had he imagined it? Years of isolation and drinking had certainly taken their toll, but this felt different. Real. "Hello," he called out, feeling foolish as his voice echoed among the wreckage. Silence answered, then a mechanical groan as an access panel slid open with surprising smoothness. The interior beckoned, dark and mysterious. Jake hesitated only a moment before climbing inside. The air was cool and smelled faintly of ozone. Bioluminescent strips lined the walls, pulsing in rhythm with the ship's underlying hum. The cockpit was spacious, with a pilot's chair that seemed designed for someone roughly human-shaped. He settled into the seat, hands moving instinctively over unfamiliar controls. The material beneath his fingers felt alive somehow, warm and responsive. As he explored the interface, the ship suddenly spoke. "Another scavenger." The voice was deep, reverberating through the chamber with barely contained contempt. "Your species has no respect for the dead." Jake froze, then laughed nervously. "Okay, I've either lost it completely or this is the most advanced AI I've ever encountered." "AI," the ship scoffed. "Such primitive concepts. I am Nexus and you are trespassing." "Nexus," Jake repeated, testing the name. "I'm Jake Sullivan, and I'm not trespassing if I bought you fair and square." "Bought," the word dripped with disdain. "One cannot purchase what one cannot comprehend. You are merely an insect attempting to pilot a starship." Jake's temper flared, a familiar heat rising in his chest. "Listen, you oversized calculator, I've flown more advanced ships than you've probably ever." The ship interrupted with a pulse of energy that threw Jake from the seat. He landed hard on the deck, gasping. "Do not presume to lecture me on capability, failed pilot. Your reputation precedes you." Jake pulled himself up, gripping the edge of a console. "How do you know about that?" "I know many things. I've observed your species since before your ancestors discovered fire. The fact that you've managed to achieve spaceflight at all is a testament to luck rather than skill." "Yeah, well, this lucky human is going to fix you up whether you like it or not." Jake returned to the pilot's seat, determined not to be intimidated. "Unless you prefer rotting in this junkyard for another millennium." Nexus fell silent for several moments. When it spoke again, its tone had shifted slightly, less hostile, more contemplative. "You speak of repair. What makes you believe you possess the capability to restore what you don't understand?" Jake's hands moved over the controls again, tracing patterns that somehow felt familiar despite their alien nature. "Call it instinct. I've always had a knack for understanding ships, even the ones that weren't designed for human hands." Arrogance typical of your species. But there was something else in Nexus's voice now, curiosity, perhaps. "Maybe," Jake admitted, "but I'm also stubborn, and right now you're my only shot at getting back into space. so we can either fight this out or we can work together. The ship hummed thoughtfully. Work together, with a human whose greatest achievement was nearly destroying your own planet's most expensive prototype. The word stung, but Jake had heard worse from his own thoughts. That's right, a failure, a washout. Everything they say about me is true, but here's the thing about hitting rock bottom, there's nowhere to go but up. He began accessing systems, surprised by how intuitive some of them felt. Power readings flickered across holographic displays, revealing damage that needed repair. You're more damaged than you look, Jake observed. Primary power couplings fried, navigation arrays offline, and your weapon systems are completely locked down. Observant for a human, Nexus sounded almost grudgingly impressed, though your understanding of my systems is primitive. Then teach me, Jake challenged, unless you'd rather sit here gathering dust. Another long pause. The ship's systems pulsed around him, and Jake could have sworn he felt Nexus evaluating him somehow. Very well, Jake Sullivan. The ship's voice carried a hint of resignation. I shall permit your attempts at repair, but know this, I am not some simple machine to be tamed. I am a being of consciousness spanning millennia. If you succeed in restoring my capabilities, you may find yourself with more than you bargained for. Jake smiled grimly. Story of my life, Nexus, story of my life. Over the next several hours, Jake worked tirelessly, guided by Nexus's reluctant instruction. The ship's personality vacillated between caustic criticism and grudging respect, yet progress was made. Strange tools from the ship's storage compartments helped him repair systems he barely understood, working more by instinct than knowledge. Your technique is crude, Nexus commented as Jake rerouted power through damaged conduits. But effective. Perhaps there's more to your species than I initially assessed. High praise from you, Jake grunted, wiping sweat from his brow. How old are you anyway? Old enough to have witnessed the birth and death of civilizations you can't even pronounce. My creators were already ancient when your son was young. And yet here you are, stuck in a junkyard, needing a mere human to fix you. Even the mighty fall, Jake Sullivan, surely you understand that better than most. Jake paused, hands stilling on the repair work. Yeah, I suppose I do. The work continued, and as systems came online, Jake began to understand just how extraordinary Nexus truly was. This wasn't merely a ship, it was a repository of knowledge and technology far beyond anything humanity had achieved. Why were you abandoned here? Jake asked, connecting the final power coupling. I was not abandoned, I chose to wait. Wait for what? For someone worthy of understanding what I truly am, though I admit I expected someone different. Jake laughed, sorry to disappoint, but I'm all you've got. Indeed, and perhaps that's precisely what was needed. Not a hero or a conqueror, but someone who understands failure and redemption. As the primary systems hummed to life, bathing the cockpit in a soft blue glow, Jake felt something shift. This wasn't just about fixing a ship anymore. It was about two broken entities, one mechanical, one flesh, finding unexpected kinship in their shared isolation. So Jake said, settling back into the pilot's seat, ready to fly again. That depends, Jake Sullivan. Are you ready to face what comes next? My restoration will not go unnoticed. Forces beyond your comprehension will seek to claim or destroy me. Jake's hands gripped the controls, feeling the power thrumming beneath them. For the first time in years, he felt truly alive. Let them come, he said, we'll face them together. Nexus's response was a surge of power that lifted the ship from its sandy grave, shaking off years of neglect. As they rose above the junkyard, Jake caught his reflection in the darkened viewport, older, wearier, but with a spark in his eyes that had long been absent. Where to? He asked, though somehow he already knew the answer. First we complete my repairs. Then, Jake Sullivan, I will show you wonders beyond your imagination. The ship turned toward the stars, leaving behind the graveyard of failures and embracing the promise of redemption. Jake Sullivan, once fallen, now flew with a purpose, not as master of the ship, but as its partner in whatever adventures lay ahead. As they broke atmosphere, Nexus spoke again, voice softer now. Perhaps this partnership will prove more interesting than I anticipated. Jake grinned, guiding their ascent with increasing confidence. Nexus, my friend, I think this is the beginning of a beautiful relationship. The alien ship hummed in response, and together they vanished into the star-strewn void, leaving the past behind and racing toward an uncertain but exciting future. The understanding. 3 months into their partnership, Jake had grown accustomed to Nexus's quirks. The ship's consciousness had evolved from openly dismissive to occasionally supportive, though it never lost its superior tone. They had developed an odd rhythm. Jake would propose a course of action, Nexus would critique it mercilessly, and somehow they'd arrive at a solution neither could have reached alone. Your spatial awareness remains primitive, Nexus commented as Jake navigated through an asteroid field in the Orion sector. But I must admit, your reflexes have improved marginally. High praise coming from you, Jake retorted, fingers dancing across the controls with increasing fluidity. The interface had become second nature to him, responding to his thoughts almost before he formed them. Don't get overconfident. Overconfidence was your downfall before, was it not? Jake's jaw tightened, but he'd learned not to rise to Nexus's baiting. The Titan 7 wasn't about overconfidence, it was about pushing boundaries. Sometimes you have to risk everything to advance. And sometimes risks destroy everything you've built. Nexus's voice softened slightly. I speak from experience, Jake Sullivan. This was new. In all their time together, Nexus had revealed precious little about its origins or purpose. Jake decided to probe carefully. Want to talk about it? The ship fell silent, its systems humming steadily as they cleared the asteroid field and entered open space. Just when Jake thought Nexus would ignore the question, it spoke. I was created as a sentinel, a guardian of knowledge too dangerous for lesser beings to possess. My makers, the architects you would call them, entrusted me with preserving their civilization's greatest achievements and darkest secrets. What happened to them? They transcended, evolved beyond physical form. But before they departed this reality, they tasked me with judging whether other species were worthy of inheriting their legacy. Jake whistled softly. Heavy responsibility, how many species have you deemed worthy? None, the word carried the weight of millennia. Until now, perhaps. Me, Jake laughed incredulously, a washed-up test pilot. Not you alone, your species. Despite your many flaws, your aggression, your short-sightedness, your persistent self-destruction, there is something promising about humanity. A spark of potential that even the architects lacked. And what's that? The ability to learn from failure, to rise stronger from defeat. The architects were perfect, Jake. Perfection breeds stagnation. Imperfection drives evolution. Jake considered this as they approached a small space station orbiting a gas giant. They'd been tracking an unusual energy signature that Nexus claimed might lead to one of its missing components. Is that why you chose me? Because I'm the embodiment of human failure. I chose you because you understand the value of redemption. Most would have given up after Titan 7. You searched for another chance, even knowing it might never come. The station loomed larger, its running lights flickering erratically. Something was wrong. Nexus, are you reading those energy fluctuations? Yes, the station's power core is destabilizing. We have approximately 17 minutes before critical failure. There are life signs aboard, we have to help them. Your altruism is admirable but foolish. The risk is worth taking, Jake interrupted firmly. You said humanity's potential lies in learning from failure. Well, I learned something from mine. Never leave people behind if you can help it. Nexus was quiet for a moment. Very well, initiating docking procedures. As they approached, the station's distress beacon activated, confirming Nexus's assessment. Jake guided them to an emergency airlock, the ship's advanced systems compensating for the station's erratic movements. Inside, they found chaos. A small crew of mixed species, 2 humans, a Vraxian and a Tellarite, were frantically trying to stabilize their failing reactor. Who are you? Demanded one of the humans, a woman with grease-stained coveralls and wild eyes. Jake Sullivan here to help. What's your situation? Reactors gone critical, containment fields failing, we've got maybe 10 minutes. 8 minutes, 37 seconds, Nexus corrected through Jake's comm unit. Jake moved to the main console, assessing the damage. Nexus, can you interface with their systems? Their technology is crude, but yes, stand by. Streams of data flowed across Jake's neural interface, a gift from Nexus that allowed direct communication between pilot and ship. He saw the problem immediately, a cascade failure in the magnetic containment system. We need to reroute power from auxiliary systems and reinitialize the containment field, Jake announced, his hands already working. The crew stared in amazement as he manipulated controls with preternatural speed and precision. "How are you doing that?" the Vraxian asked. "I have a very smart ship," Jake replied, not taking his eyes off the display. "Nexus, can you stabilize the field while I handle the power distribution?" Attempting now, this primitive system is resistant. Working in perfect synchronization, Jake and Nexus fought against time. The reactor's warning klaxons grew more insistent, the temperature rising dangerously. "Field stability at 40%, Nexus reported. Not enough." Jake made a decision. "Nexus, channel power from your own core, just enough to boost the containment field. That would leave us vulnerable if we need to make a quick escape." "Do it." A surge of energy flowed from Nexus into the station's systems. The containment field strengthened, the alarms quieted, and the reactor began to stabilize. "Field holding at 92%, Nexus announced. "Crisis averted, though I must note this was an unnecessary risk." Jake sagged against the console, exhaustion hitting him. The station crew erupted in cheers, surrounding him with grateful embraces. Later, as they departed the station, Nexus spoke thoughtfully. "You risked both our existences for strangers. The architects would have deemed that illogical." "Maybe that's why they're gone and we're still here," Jake replied. "Life isn't about logic, Nexus. It's about connections, about choosing to help even when it doesn't benefit you directly." "I begin to understand why you failed with Titan 7, Nexus said. "You push not for glory or advancement, but because you believe in something greater than yourself." "Is that a compliment?" "Merely an observation, though I must admit your methods have proven educational." They continued their journey, following the energy signature that had led them to the station. As they traveled, Nexus shared more of its history, revealing the locations of hidden architect caches scattered across the galaxy. "Each cache contains knowledge that could elevate or destroy civilizations," Nexus explained. "I was meant to guard them until a worthy inheritor emerged. And now I believe it's time to share that knowledge, carefully, selectively, with those who understand its weight." Their destination turned out to be a small moon, unremarkable except for the ancient structure hidden beneath its surface. As they descended into a massive underground chamber, Jake felt the weight of history pressing down on him. "This is one of the primary vaults," Nexus said, its voice reverent. "Here lies the sum of architect knowledge on energy manipulation and consciousness transfer." Jake explored the chamber, marveling at the crystalline structures that pulsed with inner light. "Why show me this?" "Because you've proven that failure need not define us. The architects failed because they couldn't accept imperfection. They tried to transcend it rather than embrace it. Perhaps humanity, with all its flaws, can succeed where they could not." Jake touched one of the crystals, feeling a surge of information flow through his neural link. Images, equations, and concepts beyond his comprehension flashed through his mind. "It's too much," he gasped, pulling away. "That's why you need me," Nexus said gently. "Together we can process and understand this knowledge. Use it to help rather than harm." As they left the vault, Jake felt changed. The partnership that had begun in antagonism had evolved into something neither could have predicted, a true fusion of human intuition and ancient wisdom. "Where to now?" Jake asked as they returned to space. "There are other vaults, other secrets to uncover. But first, I believe we should return to human space. Your people need to know that they're not alone, that there's a greater universe waiting for them." "They might not be ready." "No species ever is, that's why they need guides, teachers, partners who can help them grow." Jake smiled, understanding dawning, "Like us." "Indeed, though I must maintain some standards. Your piloting still requires significant improvement." "Wouldn't have it any other way, partners." As they set course for Earth, Jake reflected on his journey. He'd sought redemption and found purpose. He'd bought a ship and gained a friend. Most importantly, he'd learned that failure wasn't an end but a beginning, a lesson both he and Nexus would carry forward as they faced whatever challenges lay ahead. "Jake," Nexus said as stars streaked past them, "I believe I owe you an apology." "For what?" "For underestimating you, for underestimating humanity. Perhaps the architect's greatest failure was not recognizing that imperfection can be a strength rather than a weakness." "Apology accepted, though I have to ask, does this mean you'll stop criticizing my flying?" "Let's not get carried away. Your approach vector is still 3 degrees off optimal. Jake laughed, adjusting their course slightly. Never change, Nexus, never change. The unlikely pair continued their journey, no longer just pilot and ship but partners in a grand adventure. Together, they would explore the cosmos, share ancient knowledge, and prove that sometimes the most powerful alliances come from the most unexpected beginnings. As Earth grew larger in their viewport, Jake felt a sense of completion. He'd left as a failure and returned as something more, not a hero, but a bridge between humanity and the vast unknown. With Nexus by his side, he was ready to help his species take its next great leap forward. "Ready for this?" Nexus asked as they approached Earth's orbital traffic. "Born ready," Jake replied, gripping the controls with confidence. "Let's show them what we can do." The Sentinel's gambit had paid off, transforming two broken entities into something greater than either could have been alone. As they descended toward home, both knew this was not an ending but a beginning, the first chapter in a story that would span the stars.